mean, Riley Cooper, I mean, like, that dude deserves a statue. I mean, like,
number one on your speed dial.
Hey, I'll tell you what, like, I mean, I didn't know until a couple days after the fact. I was like, wait a minute, is he the MVP or like was he on the all-tournament team?
No doubt about it.
And then Ty Floyd, when I sure got 17, and like stole it from him. But I was like, when has a pitcher like been a part of like 5 of the 6 wins in Omaha? I mean, what a performance.
Coach, it's great to meet you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you for the time.
Pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Sharp a little late, boys, at the spring game, obviously, as you can see. Couple of booze cruises here to do. Let's fit. Cruise. Grand salami to the boys. Finally back on track. And I got another one coming. Don't you think I don't? And that's how we roll in Tiger Stadium.
Just watching the spring games that were on television, one thing that jumped out about your squad is your quarterback room is very talented compared to a lot of the league and a lot of the country. I wonder, is it easier to recruit that position when you have talent or when you don't have talent? Coach Kelly, we're official.
Finally,
I'm
get a
telling
chance to meet you. Thought I had to get a private audience with the Pope. There's Jordy.
Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification, we about to go live. We got all your favorite guests, we got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time.
Tearing up, answering the question, and I thought, my God, if Chica is offered this job, she's going to take it.
It's just a crazy, fun time at LSU right now. Isn't this what everybody loves?
From the boot to the east to the west coast, no matter where we at, open up the phone lines, come and join the show. Make sure you tell your friends about Jordy Culotta Show, yeah.
Let's go! Let's go!
All right.
Nice start. Big day.
Nice start.
It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time.
Coach, it's great to meet you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you for the time. Welcome into a Thursday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, as always live here on our Click Here digital campus and brought to you by RMB Builders every single day. Check out Rhett and the crew online at rmb-builders.com. You can search them on Instagram at RMB Builders as well. Click Here Digital, of course, over here on Innerline Avenue in between Drusilla and Airline, and online at clickheredigital.com. Our phone line every day brought to you by Southern Regional Medical Center, and we're loaded on the phone line today. We got Josh Pate coming up here at 7:30 this morning. We'll preview this college football weekend that is going to be fantastic from start to finish on Saturday. You got games in every single window that is going to lure you in, man. It is going to be a beautiful Saturday.
The slate
as the college football slate this weekend will be broken down by our friend Josh Pate coming up here at 7:30 this morning. And then every Thursday, compliments of our friends over at Carriages. Chris Blaire, the voice of the Tigers, will be here talking about this big Saturday night matchup between LSU and Arkansas. LSU and Arkansas are getting a lot of love from a national standpoint, as well as ESPN sending their top commentating crew down here as Herb Street and Fowler will be on the call Saturday evening inside Tiger Stadium. So it'll be a heck of a backdrop for college football on Saturday from Tiger Stadium as LSU and Arkansas play an SEC nightcap here in Baton Rouge. We'll talk all about the weekend. Obviously, the attention that Greg Brooks was receiving yesterday. Brian Kelly gave a little bit more insight on Brooks as he jumped on the SEC teleconference yesterday. We also heard from Sam Pittman again as he opened up about Greg Brooks and really the desire, the want from Arkansas to really help out in this situation, which we really anticipated in listening to Coach Pittman's remarks earlier this week. So a lot of love for Greg Brooks, a lot of thoughts for Greg Brooks. I was all over the place yesterday in between New Orleans, Baton Rouge, sales calls and meetings, and a lot of people were talking about Greg, so that they had heard the show and really and had heard the news about Greg Brooks, and obviously thinking and praying for him and his family at this point, as he had a medical emergency surgery last week to remove a brain tumor that right now doctors and professionals await to see the test results on that biopsy. So we all wait alongside here and hoping and praying for good news, as Greg Brooks obviously is really kind of the centerpiece of this game and what is really kind of being talked about. You know, you really don't hear both sides talking about the X's and O's as much this week. I mean, it's a real human element to this game with Brooks. So I just want to make sure and continue to think and pray about him and his family and everything that they're going through right now. I cannot imagine what they are dealing with. So think about them and continue to. We'll talk more about Arkansas and LSU. As LSU, this is the battle of the boot. Tigers coming off of a 41-14 bludgeoning of Arkansas, where they really of Mississippi State, where they played their best game of the season. They executed on all sides of the ball. They really won all the one-on-one matchups and looked and left Starkville with a lot of confidence going into a home opener of SEC play here in Baton Rouge on Saturday night. So we'll talk all about that. Make sure and hit that like button, share button, comment button if you don't mind. We are grateful for you to be here every day with us and starting your day with us. And if you're live here on this Thursday morning, click that like button for us. Lloyd is here. Austin is here reading our comments as well, as he's been doing great work throughout the week. Stewie is here on the ones and twos, just like always, as well. So we will be taking your comments, and if you have any questions for Josh Pate, jump aboard, and we will get those over to him at 7:30 this morning. But we will have a lot of discussion about this weekend in college football, as we talked about. LSU is a major player in it, but this is as good of a slate as we've had all year, and might be the best slate that we're served up just from start to finish when it's all said and done. When you're just talking about the 11 o'clock window, the 2:30 window, the 6 o'clock, 6:30 window, even into the later window that night. I mean, you've got Ohio State visiting South Bend and Notre Dame for a 6:30 kickoff on NBC. Obviously, you've got LSU and Arkansas in that 6 o'clock window. Oregon and Colorado are in the 2:30 window. Ole Miss and Alabama are in that same window. Auburn and Texas A&M are kicking off at 11 a.m. Florida State and Clemson are kicking off at 11 a.m. I mean, it is just a full day of football for you, with LSU hosting a Arkansas club at home that's coming off of a pretty bad beat from BYU last week. Hogs penalized 14 times, played real sloppy, so they'll be looking to get right as they come down to Baton Rouge this weekend, and will be here on Saturday. So it is a heck of a weekend when you just kind of say out loud what the slate looks like. If you were to rate these games,
I was just going to ask you the same thing.
Four. Give me your top four.
Top four from
4 to 1.
From LSU's perspective?
Nah,
or like what's most important?
Just the overall day of it.
I think
really.
Top four, I think you have to go. I would go in reverse order. One, obviously, I think the Notre Dame Ohio State game, just because you want to see if Notre Dame's real and if Ohio State's real. They're both in conferences that I haven't seen a lot of football from. Ohio State hadn't played anybody yet. Notre Dame, you saw obviously kick off like the week 0 slate, and you saw what Sam Hartman looks like with them. Then they go out and beat the Wolfpack, so that was like their first real test. I would like to see it feels like that's going to be a playoff spot definer. I mean, Notre Dame still has some tough games left on the schedule, but that one feels like it's going to be a heavyweight tilt. Second off, I go Florida State Clemson, even though Clemson's not ranked. I think the importance for Florida State to be able to, if they get past this one, it's over. It feels like they can, obviously anybody can go up and beat you, but it feels like their real last test of what's going on in the ACC, where they can continue to, they just went out, they just get past Clemson. It feels like they're staring a playoff spot right in the eye. They got, they had to face the early test, Boston College, where it would have been a little bit of a sandwich spot where you're looking ahead to Clemson, prove that a better team won. So if you can win those tough games like that, I feel like that gives you momentum going into a Clemson game. 3, it would have been Oregon, Colorado, but I take that off the slate because no Travis Hunter. And going down the list, I guess, Ole Miss, Alabama, absolutely. Yeah. And then I'll throw in LSU, Arkansas just because I think that still has some intrigue for defining what happens in the SEC.
Stu, you put it on the poll. Let's get some results on this. But how about you, Stu? What are you thinking about this weekend? How do you rank these teams? How do you rank these games from start to finish when you step into Saturday?
I'll go with Lloyd on number one game. Ohio State, Notre Dame, number one. I'm actually going Oregon.
You're still in on it?
Really?
Versus Colorado at number 2. Because I want to see if Colorado's for real now. Now you get to see if they're for real.
After, seen the cleats, Oregon's busted out in this thing?
Yeah. Louisiana native with the make, too.
Really?
Yeah. Montreal McGraw played at Oregon. But I'm going to go with Oregon, Colorado, number 2. 3, Florida State at Clemson. And 4, I guess I might go USC at Arizona State. That might get weird over there in the West Coast.
I can see that.
Could get weird.
Arizona State's not playing for too much. Like they got a bowl ban this year. They don't really have playing a freshman quarterback. Like they don't have much to lose.
Who is Arizona State's quarterback? Is that
Jaden Rashada?
Yeah. So USC's defense would probably be on its heels a little bit because they haven't proven they can stop
tested.
Anybody.
They'll be tested for sure.
God.
I mean, that has to be a nightmare to wake up every Saturday being like, we can't stop anybody. Like Caleb Williams, go do it again.
Better be you.
Better be you.
You better be you, man.
You sure you want to come back?
I mean, why would you come back? You're the number 1 pick, man.
Yeah.
What are you coming back for?
Either way, you're going to be at the same team probably,
right.
or the same grouping of teams is going to be.
Whoever you go to is not going to be any good. I mean,
trade for me.
Unless you're a Manning.
Yeah,
unless you're like the first family of football. I mean, nobody's going to win this fight.
He's not even taking on one team. He's taking on the entire NFL draft process.
Yeah, he's taking on big football.
Yeah.
So I love a game that may be off the board here a little bit, but I'm telling you, I think this game is going to be a war. I think it's going to be a really good game, and it's Oregon State and Washington State. It's a top 20 matchup when you look at Oregon State, and they're going into Pullman, which is one of these environments in college football that if I had a bucket list, kind of back in the day, I kind of would think like, man, there were some spots that you really want to go. I want to go see Camp Randall in Wisconsin.
Yep.
I'd love to go to a Wisconsin game. I'd love to go to a Washington State game. I think that from just if you take it in that, Mike Leach really kind of brought a lot of attention to that program when he was coaching there. Game day finally went there after years and years of always having the flag on and behind the set. But it was a place that once you saw it on TV, it looked like a spot that you would want to go experience.
It was a madhouse.
And then we were able to form a relationship with Ryan Russillo, who was the game day radio host for 7 years.
That's some good memories.
Which, you want to talk about a gig, right? Like, nobody knows who you are, but you're in, the top campus in college football weekends for 7 straight years. He's, bouncing around. The stories and some of the stuff that they were doing is wild. But he would always talk about Pullman. Like, he would say, I'm telling you, a sleeper is Pullman about everything. The partying,
you could get over. I imagine you could sleep in and slink in and sleep out.
Very cool place. But as far as this game goes, you're talking about what, the Pac-2?
Yeah,
the 2-pack.
2-pack, man.
of 2-pack of picks.
The last 2 teams remaining of the disintegrated Pac-12, and look, these are 2 really solid football programs. I mean, they're not bad at all. I mean, they've got quarterbacks. They've got good teams. I think this is going to be a really good football game on a day that's packed with a ton of good football. I think this one is going to be a really good game. Number 3 for me is Clemson, South Carolina. I think this Clemson and Florida State is going to be this is a crossroads for Dabo and the Clemson program. If Florida State runs up in to Clemson on Saturday morning and does what it feels like they could do, I kind of think Florida State was looking ahead last weekend at Boston College, and luckily for them, they were able to kind of get out of there. But I think that this game for Clemson, this could be the beginning of the end of this Clemson run. When you think about the discussion that Clemson has been in for almost a decade now, nearly a decade. I mean, I guess this would not necessarily a day, probably started back in 2015, 2014 when they really started to make the move of becoming a college football, kind of power.
Well, you talking about Clemson?
Yeah.
I would say when they beat LSU.
That's what I was going to say. What,
2013?
Yeah, 2013.
So about a decade.
Taj Boyd game.
Yeah.
LSU was up 21-0 in that game.
Taj
at half.
Boyd and,
That was Les Miles.
And who else? DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah,
Yes.
Nuke Hopkins.
Nuke Hopkins
and Sammy Watkins got knocked out of the game
Arky.
by Barkevius Mingo.
Oh, yeah.
It sounded like a
249.
shotgun blast when he got hit.
Yeah.
Were you in there?
I believe it was the second play of the game. Yeah, I was there. I mean, it was early in the game. Jeremy Hill
Jet sweep, and he just.
crushed him. Ugh, that was a Les Miles.
Oh, that was a Les Miles special.
That was a special right there.
We were
from Les.
in New Orleans it was New Year's Eve, right? That's when the game was played.
I believe it was.
Because we were in New Orleans, and we had, like, a whole group of us had tickets to a concert. We're watching the LSU game first. 21-0, people start getting that itch to get out there, like, start seeing the sights of New Orleans. So we leave. We come back. After the concert, come back. I was like, oh, let's see how LSU, like, how far did they get in front? And I was like, they lost? It's like, this, like you said, it's like, Les did it again.
Oh, Les went less.
21-0. Let's get out of here.
So I love this Clemson-Florida State game, 11 a.m. slot. I think this is a huge spot for Clemson. You could literally watch the wheels fall off of Clemson's football program
Let's check
on
it
Saturday
Clemson
morning.
right now.
I mean, it could be the end for Clemson as far as being a relevant power program in college football.
That's what I was talking about.
What's that?
That's what I was talking about. Clemson's running back. See, he's looking to the sideline. I don't know what's going on. He just almost scored. He's looking to the sideline. This is him and the running back coach.
C.J. Spiller's their running back coach, isn't he?
That's him.
Yeah.
I mean,
Temper's flaring in
no,
Clemson.
it's
Is he related to? Is that Shipley related to the other Shipleys?
the Texas Shipleys.
Uh-huh.
I don't
He
know
might
how
be.
Shipley
Will
could
Shipley?
get out of Texas.
Yeah, that's true. He's a
Georgia
good, I mean,
Shipley?
he's a player.
Kid's a player, though.
And then the second game for me is Ole Miss, Alabama. I think in the same sense of what we just talked about for Clemson, by no means is it as dramatic for Alabama, but you could see the power really shift on Saturday in the league if Ole Miss goes into Bryant-Denny and hands Alabama their second loss in the month of September at home. This could be one of those moments for Alabama that we have not seen ever since Saban has been there, really since 2007. You know, back when he was in his first year on the job. It's a game that's going to have college football's attention because, first off, Lane Kiffin this is not abnormal by any means, but you can sense that he really feels like this is the year. Like, I mean, he's stepping out there. He's starting controversy. He's talking about who's running the defense. I mean, things that typically we've seen Kiffin do in the past, but it's a little bit more, it's a little bit bolder. It's a little bit more bold in the approach right now. And it seems as he knows that this Alabama team is very vulnerable. And what Ole Miss does well, Alabama does not have a lot of answers for. I mean, Ole Miss is putting up points at a just track type record, over 50 points a game, and they're running up on a defense that from a DB standpoint is going through it. You know, I mean, I don't know if this one is going to work out.
Bama's O-line giving up 10 sacks the last 2 weeks. Bama coming off their worst game. This is all courtesy of Peter Burns. Bama coming off its worst game in 15-plus years. Ole Miss has Bama's former defensive coordinator, which is an interesting storyline, in Pete Golding, and who would obviously, it feels like, would know the Tide offense a little bit. And Ole Miss, he even says, has the best two quarterbacks in the matchup with Jackson Dart and Sanders. So that's where it does feel like the chips are in Ole Miss's corner at this moment. But every time we do this with an Alabama team, it just feels like, how did Saban let it get here? Where he had 3 years to recruit a quarterback because he knew what he had in Bryce Young, and he just couldn't.
Well, I mean, you look at the recruiting classes, it's not as if it's different.
Yeah. Man.
You know, I mean, like last year's recruiting class was argued that it was the best one he had signed since he's been there. I mean, Ty Simpson, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Stewie, but he was ranked like right there with Walker Howard, right? I mean, like
Ty Simpson was a 5-star.
Yeah, he was a 5-star.
Yeah, well, I mean, wasn't all the rankings like Quinn Ewers, Ty Simpson, Walker Howard? Wasn't it like those three guys in that cycle that everybody really wanted?
Yep.
Those were like the top three names.
And Holstein.
But Holstein, he was in the next class.
Yeah, but he didn't get ranked like that high.
Right, but I mean, I remember Ty Simpson.
Me too. I do as well.
Around Walker Howard's names as guys like that were 5-star, pro style, big time quarterbacks. Like these guys were being signed to play. And I mean, I know Simpson was dropping back behind an offensive line last week that, you know, didn't allow him the time to kind of do what he does best. He can't really move back there.
He could move a little bit. Like if you watched him in the spring game, he's got a little wiggle to him. But that's the other shocking thing is Alabama's offensive line. This could be just as easy as you would expect they have a good offensive line, but it might be the transition of power our offensive coordinator where.
I mean, the deal at Alabama though,
it's always turnover.
Reading between the lines, they don't allow you to bring your system in. They ask you or they demand you to adapt to the system that's already in place. Tommy Rees couldn't bring his terminology. Like they're still using like Lane Kiffin's terminology.
That's what I was going to say. So
of the offense.
That would be the one person I would imagine that they let change the offense was here. Tell us how to. That's when the whole game changed.
That's when it
yeah.
changed.
So it's like, all right, we have the blueprint. You come in and run this.
So I mean, I don't know how.
So he's learning the offense
much necessarily, too. Right? Like I mean, how much necessarily you can really point at Rees and say this is your fault, right? I mean, I think it really kind of goes back to what we said yesterday, and in really kind of reading, and we'll ask Josh Pate about this. He'll have great insight on this. Is that, with all due respect, the coaching staff around Alabama and Nick Saban is just not what it was. I mean, you take for granted how much a good staff means to the overall production of the program. Like being around that 2019 team closer than we had been to other teams. I mean, we had real access to that 2019 team where you could go to practice. You could almost, be around the facility with open door policy. And knowing like what Joe Brady and Dave Aranda and guys that were in the building that were really leading the charge of the tasks of football, like things that Orgeron just did not have to worry about because he knew he had the guys in place that were taking care of that. It makes the program that much significantly better, right? I mean, when you've got Corey Raymond and Dave Aranda and guys that are just at the top of their trade, sitting in a room, sharing ideas. And I mean, you've even got guys that are there like John Robinson, who's an old respected mind in football that you can just bounce ideas off of. I mean, I remember Joe Brady telling me like he would go just walking down the hall, would kind of peek his head in and be like, how would you guys use Marcus Allen in a similar, in a set like this? How did you guys throw him the ball? How did you coach Eric Dickerson? Just stories that you can tap into where guys are just sitting right there, that you've got this wealth of this trough of wealth of knowledge that's at your disposal. And I just don't think Alabama's got the staff that they did. Lane Kiffin knows. Lane Kiffin, he wouldn't have thrown shots at Kirby Smart.
No.
He wouldn't have thrown shots at, what's my guy's name? Tuopa, the guy that was the defensive coordinator that's now with the Cleveland Browns, Tupa. They've had some, Dayball's been through. They just haven't had the same amount of assistance, in my opinion, or the quality of assistance that they have had. And I think that when you watch Alabama play, sure, they still have the same players, but a lot of the time, they're at it, they kind of look like LSU in the past, where people are hands up, people are confused. You see people kind of talking. It's just they're not as well prepared as they once were. And my top game of the weekend, obviously, I think is in South Bend between Notre Dame and Ohio State. Obviously, this collection of talent, this test for Sam Hartman, how good is Ohio State?
I don't know.
Will we find out on Saturday? It kind of feels like we will.
Talk about a system.
Yeah, right. We'll see.
Justin Fields looks good in the NFL.
Miserable, he looks like.
Miserable.
Golly, he wants out.
But that's another Ryan Day product, that he just trots you into a 3-year offense where you light up college football, get drafted top 10, and then go on to struggle in the NFL.
For context, Ty Simpson was the number 2 quarterback in his class, the class of 2022. The number 1 quarterback was Cade Klubnik, quarterback at Clemson.
Wow. Little 7-on-7 matchup.
Connor Wegman was the number 4 quarterback at Texas A&M. Walker Howard was number 6.
Okay. So,
yeah.
He was in the game.
Second-rated quarterback in the country in a loaded class. You got
the guy.
Remember Daily, we're brought to you by Katie's Restaurant. Was over there yesterday, was starting to fill up around lunchtime. Typical of Katie's, great service. Everybody's got a smile on their face. Everybody's moving around. Great staff, great people. Get over and visit Katie's on Iberville Street. Check them out. Katie's Restaurant is located, been around since 1984 in the heart of Mid-City down there in New Orleans. Online, katiesinmidcity.com. katiesinmidcity.com. Great lunch specials, great daily lunch specials. St. Louis-style pizza, some of your New Orleans favorite. Cold beer. Everybody's got a smile on their face with great service. katiesinmidcity.com. When we come back, we talk this college football weekend with Josh Pate, one of the best in the business. Next here in the Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by RMB. If you're in the market for a mortgage lender, you need to start with Doug Bickley and his team. Bickley has built a crew with over 50 years of combined lending experience. They've been in business for over 20 years, and they love helping their clients achieve the American dream of home ownership. They're also key with working in real estate agents and helping their clients getting same-day pre-approval. They average about 1 buyer a day getting them in a home. If you want to get in touch with Doug and his crew, it's easy. Call them 225-214-5154. 225-214-5154. Go see the Bickley team today. They're located on the corner of Coursey Boulevard and Sherwood Forest right here in Baton Rouge.
What's up?
What's happening?
Chilling with a couple of cool guys. You?
Chilling and watching some tube. Hold on.
Did you do it?
Hold on. Did you do it?
Rosa.
Hold on.
Roof's up?
Roof's up!
Roof's up!
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Beautiful roof every single time.
True.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, We've only got one. You. Auctioneer Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college, for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
You can't put the cart before the horse. That'd be like, will you marry me?
Do I know you?
Never sign a contract with a roofer before he gets on your roof. Call Go Roof instead. We offer a free, no-obligation inspection. A beautiful roof every shingle time. Bobby, goes in the front.
Roof, roof, Go Roof.
Belmont Stakes Race Training. I'm sticking to roofing.
Roof, roof, Go Roof.
Kentucky Derby Training. I'm sticking to roofing.
Roof, roof, Go Roof.
Offensive player of the game from LSU, Joe Burrow.
Football is life. Football is Joe Burrow.
You have found the Jordy Culotta Show.
Whoa. Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like. Hold up, I shoot my shot. Wait, hold up.
But the Pope is Jordy.
When it go up. Moving fast, already gone. Yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog. Just let me relax. Stop assuming what we doing.
The Jordy Culotta Show, brought to you by Click Here Digital.
All right, welcome back here. Thursday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, live here from Click Here Digital. As you can always find us online at clickheredigital.com. You can find our next guest all over the place. Josh Pate, he is on your campus. He is on your YouTube. He is on your social media. He's probably on your softball field somewhere. He is live Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night. So he'll be live tonight at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern on Late Kick with Josh Pate. Obviously, you've got to be a subscriber by now. If you're listening to this show, you're a huge college football fan, and Pate is delivering good the best college football news. So it is good to talk to you again. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I want to know how you've been, because it's been several weeks now.
It's been a minute. It's been a hell of a roller coaster ride down here in Baton Rouge. And we were very low 2 weeks ago. Now we're kind of peaking again and feel like that the Tigers have a chance. So we're kind of back up and moving here.
Par for the course in Baton Rouge.
Now, did you let yourself fall into the trap of thinking the world had burned to the ground after that Florida State game?
Guilty a little bit. Guilty on the defensive backfield. Pate, I didn't think that they were going to be able to get it right and guard anybody. But Denver Harris has been a pleasant surprise early on. And Andre Sam has been a guy who's really stepped up. But, what has been most ease of mind is you look around the league. I mean, really look around the country. It feels wide open, right?
Yeah, that's what I've tried to tell anyone who freaks out right now.
Thank you.
And that even includes the fine folks at Clemson. I got a buddy who's a really, really big Clemson fan, and he's like, well, I mean, it was Duke, bro. We lost to Duke. We're done. And I said, well, secretly, I thought to myself, you probably are. But I said to his face, no. There's no elite team right now. You need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which translates to find some receivers. And they've got Florida State in there this week, and the line is, FSU minus 2.5. That's going to be one of those sort of referendum games, by the way, on the transfer portal. I'm really looking forward to it because it's one philosophy versus another one. And even though it's irresponsible to draw conclusions off of one 4-quarter game, that will be the conclusion game. There's one right way to do it, one wrong way to do it, and we're going to find out Saturday.
How big of a spot is this for Dabo Swinney and his program?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about this on our show tonight. I don't know that I've ever – I'm not saying this, but I know a lot of people are saying this is a legacy-defining program or a legacy-defining game for him. And I'm thinking that's crazy because how are you defining your legacy still? How do you still have to define your legacy after you've won 2 championships? You've won the ACC, I think 7 of the past 8 years. I think maybe from this point moving forward, it's the biggest game. And I think in a lot of cases also, you went a long time, Jordy, where you did not see the Clemson program get turned upside down with churn from staff like most other places have to worry about. Well, it finally happened when Venables moved on and Tony Elliott and those guys moved on. And I think probably, if Dabo Swinney's honest with you, it takes a little personal because this is the time where you find out whether you were just surrounded by a bunch of good assistants or whether you yourself were the straw that stirred the drink. I've always thought that's irrelevant because it's a good coach's job to hire other good coaches. So that itself should have been a credit to him. But yeah, it's Dabo's program. And he's chosen not to use the portal because it's his program. And he chose to elevate those coordinators from within last year, which failed because it's his program. And so for better or for worse, the Clemson UC is Dabo Swinney's Clemson. Yeah. From that perspective, I think 10 years from now, what happens this Saturday will greatly determine whether people say, man, Dabo, he withstood the storm, man, he rolled with the punches. Or someone will say, once he lost those assistants, he just never was the same again.
Speaking of assistants, Josh, when you look at the Alabama football program, one of the unsaid successes, really, when you step back and look at it, is the coaching tree of which they've developed over the last decade. When you look at this collection of assistants and staff around this Tide team, where would you rank it, or what do you see it as far as what it gives to the overall production of what Alabama is right now?
You're talking about what I think about the current staff?
Yes, sir.
I don't think all that highly of it relative to what Alabama staffs have been. Because I think even back in the mid-2010s, when we were looking at that staff, of course, you knew Kirby was destined for something big eventually. Lane Kiffin had already been a head coach before and through fault of his own was merely relegated to coordinator status at the time. But, I mean, Mario Cristobal was top of his field. Everyone knew Napier was legit. Dan Lanning was a quality control guy on that staff, and he's up at Oregon now. Mel Tucker, ditto. So, yeah, I look at their staff now, and I'm not alone in this. I talked to a couple of people inside that industry who echo the sentiment that where the gaps close the most is not recruiting, it's not talent, it's staff, the quality of staff. They don't have the best staff, even in the SEC, much less the country anymore. And so I also think that it doesn't necessarily paint Nick Saban in a negative light now. What I think it does is it exposes how underappreciated the staffs he had at the time were. Like, it wasn't just that they were the best. They were the best by a wide margin. And somehow he got all those dudes to agree to be on the same staff. Right. And it's a bunch of type A's, man. It's a bunch of alphas. And if you've ever been in a room like that, most people haven't. But if you've ever been in a room like that, it's just utterly fascinating, the concept that there's any one person who can get all those folks to shut up and do what he says. And Nick Saban did that. And so there aren't a lot of those out there to begin with, but to assemble all of them on one staff is crazy. That's where the edge has dulled a little bit, I think. And then everything else behind that falls into place. Like if you don't have as good a coaching staff as you once did, and someone's out there complaining about play calling or development or scheme, all that stuff bleeds back to what kind of quality coaching staff do you have?
Yeah, without question. I mean, Tuscaloosa at one point became almost like a coaching rehab. It was almost like you had to stop through there to give yourself credibility in the trade. And I think, during that time is where you kind of look back and you're like, damn, we didn't even realize how great they were at that time, because you look at them now. I agree with you. I saw your piece on this and really feel the same way. Take me to Tuscaloosa on Saturday. How big of a spot is this for Lane and Ole Miss? He's feeling it this week a little above. I mean, you expect this from him, but it almost feels a little different in the way that he's approaching this one.
Yeah. Now, this is a guy who's had a false sense of confidence before, but sure, he ought to be very confident. I mean, they're in double-digit sack territory already as a defensive front, and we've seen what Alabama's offensive line is. I whiffed horrifically on my expectations for that unit. So that feels really good right now, not even 4 weeks into the season. But I think also he knows this is his shot, and he knows, much like Quinn Ewers did over the top with Alabama, he's got a quarterback in Jackson Dart that's right around 12.5 yards per attempt so far this year. So he can hit the explosive play too. They've got the ability to run the ball so they can be balanced. They've got the ability to disrupt up front. They already know that, at least from a psychological standpoint, that Alabama team's appeared to be on its heels a little bit. So if you were to take all those ingredients, throw them in a blender and press blend, you've got as good a chance at pouring out an Ole Miss win as you've seen so far in his head-to-head against Nick Saban. But as for Alabama, as for Saban, Jordy, we could say this about Bama. We could say it about Clemson. You could say it about A&M. Think about how many of these premier teams have a shot to drop a second game this weekend. Yeah. And it's not even late September yet. It's just kind of late September. If Bama's a 2-loss team before we get to October, they've never been there before. You got to go back to 2007 before you find a place where they were there again. We've seen them lose a game before, but that's just when they rally the troops and end up going on a death march. If they go 2 losses and they're out of it, I have no idea what to expect, because we've never actually seen that before. And that's the same thing for Clemson. And both of those programs, not even half a decade ago, were on top of the world, and it looked like it would never end.
How much do you have LSU being a threat to have 2 losses in September? What do you give the Arkansas game coming in here to Baton Rouge on Saturday night? How do you look at that one?
It's the most sneaky game to me in the country, because no one's looking at it. I know you guys are. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone's looking at it. I didn't look at it on my Tuesday night show. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to someone yesterday from more the scouting side. And he said, hey, what do you think about Arkansas LSU? And I said, I haven't thought much of it at all. Why? He said, well, you need to pay attention to it. And he said, that Brigham Young game has thrown it off everyone's radar. Mm-hmm. But he said, you got to have that disruptive defensive front, which Arkansas has. And if you have a quarterback that in a single Saturday can take things over and can dual threat you to death, that's the recipe for an upset out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Plus, you got let down look ahead for LSU with what they just did, what's on deck. So I'm not going to be the dude who calls upset or anything like that, but I do have a lot more of my attention on that game now. I'm very glad it's in Baton Rouge for the sake of the Tigers down there, and it is a night game, right?
Yes, 6 o'clock kickoff.
Oh, okay, so that lessens my concern, but I don't know. I just know if we claim to be in a season of chaos, don't ever overlook any game like that, is my advice to myself.
Mm-hmm. I'll get back to them before we get out of here, but then take me to South Bend. This feels like the biggest one of the day on a game or on a day that is just packed with heavyweights. Where do you rank this Notre Dame-Ohio State game, and what is your anticipation going into it?
Well, I rank it number 1, so I chose to go to this one. Mm-hmm. It was going to be this one or Clemson-Florida State. Chose to go to this one. Really excited about it. I've only been up there once in my life. That was when Georgia went up there 6 years ago. Yeah. So I think a lot of times what we see in the early part of a college football season is most teams are not fully developed. Rarely do you have a team in week one that just is what it's always going to be, unless the teams are bad. Like, bad teams are what they are really early on, but great teams are rarely great early. Ohio State has the ability to be that. They are not that right now. I wonder if this is the game where you try and see around the corner a little bit and anticipate a scaled up performance. That's what I try to do. Makes you look dumb half the time, but I try to do it. And I expect them to win the game, even though Notre Dame's looked better than them so far. Travion Henderson for Ohio State is a guy who's battled injury, and he looks as good to me right now as he has. And so it means Ohio State doesn't have to lean on throwing the ball to win. Mm-hmm. They can go in there and be patient and play ball control. It's actually Notre Dame that I think can afford to be more aggressive offensively, having the better quarterback. And I almost wonder if Ohio State's defensive front doesn't leverage that into maybe forcing some mistakes and playing a more complementary style and getting a win on the road. Even though they haven't lost yet, if you can add this to that stack we were just talking about, if Ohio State loses, given all the doubt around that place after back-to-back Michigan losses last 2 years, that's another place where they'd be in total freak-out mode. So I'm going to take Ohio State to win. It's a low-confidence game, though. I'm not betting a dime on it. I'm just going to watch.
Sneaky undercard play of the day and a game to watch, and I love on paper, is Auburn at A&M at 11 o'clock. How do you like that one?
Oh, boy. So there is not a reason there's not a reason why A&M should not take care of business in this game. Mm-hmm. But then again, I felt the same way. I went up to Missouri last week. They played Kansas State. That was that field storming game. Yep. And I'm thinking to myself in the pregame, and I'm talking to some Kansas State coaches in the pregame, and I'm like, there's no massive edge here, but there are a bunch of little incremental edges that all lean Kansas State. How does Kansas State not win this game? Well, then they play it, and you just see, once again, football games happen in funny ways. So I feel the same way about A&M Auburn. A&M badly outclasses them roster-wise. You should be able to expose A&M throwing the ball, but Auburn's leading receiver has like 150 yards or something like that this year. So they hadn't thrown the ball at all. And yet, I got Hugh Freeze against DJ Durkin. Yeah. And if I've got that matchup, there's always the potential for something crazy to happen because Freeze badly outclasses Durkin. And so spread is 7.5. I don't know many people out there worth their salt that are leaning Auburn in the outright upset, which means it's probably coming down to the fourth quarter. And that's yet another team that we can throw on top of the heap if A&M is a 2-loss team in September. I don't think I need to tell you how crazy that would be.
Pate, when you look around college football early on here, why the discrepancy between the SEC and everybody else so much this year? Why has the SEC struggled in these non-conference games like they have in the first month?
Well, number one, I think it's fair to just say the conference is collectively down. I think that's fair. But also, you and I had this talk, I think like a year ago, and I told you how much I detest the conference versus conference metrics, only because false data is used. And normally it's in bowl season. That's when we normally do this. And the problem I've always had with it is, if you could give me a tournament where the SEC's 6th seed plays the Big 12's 6th seed, I'd be comfortable with the results if they were evenly seeded. That's not what we see, though. We saw the ACC's number 1 team in FSU take down the SEC's number 3 preseason team in LSU. We saw the ACC's number 3 preseason, North Carolina, take down the SEC's number 9 preseason in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Well, that doesn't tell me anything about conference supremacy. Utah, it was the number 4 team in the Pac-12 preseason. Florida was the number 12 team in the SEC preseason. Utah won. That's wonderful. They should have. But no one ever thinks like that because they hold the SEC to a higher standard. So logic is thrown out the window, and all people see is SEC lost a game. I got no problem telling you this conference is down. But I do not think, it's bleeding out of 7 different wounds this year like the national types are making it out to be. And so I just think it happens to be that other conferences are on right now. Like the Pac-12, there's no way anyone's going to tell me you think they've always played this caliber of ball. They're clearly elevated as a conference this year.
What do you think about the quarterback play in college football this year?
I think so because you've got major places like Bama and Ohio State and really Clemson. I mean, you can throw them in there too, where they're not seeing elite quarterback play. I think that people aren't seeing it where it is happening. Bo Nix has the biggest stage of his career Saturday because they play Colorado, so that's always a massive stage. He could go off this Saturday and be the talk of college football. I think he will, by the way. Dante Moore at UCLA could also establish himself this Saturday. They go to Utah. I think he is rapidly ascending and will continue to do so this year. And so, look, as much as we just talked about Auburn's upset potential, Wigman could end up being the best quarterback in the SEC this year. If he played in a different system, we'd already be saying it. It's his system that's held him back in College Station. But you got him there. We haven't seen Kentucky play anyone, so we haven't really gotten to talk about Devin Leary yet. So I think there's a lot of high-level quarterback play that probably is still ahead of us. It's just not going to come from the programs you're used to seeing it from. And also, I think it's become pretty obvious right now that Tennessee will not be enjoying elite quarterback play this year.
That's right. Who's the best team? What's the best performance you've seen? Is that the same question?
Man, I don't even know how to answer this immediately. I mean, that Florida State win over LSU was impressive. Man, I don't know. You know how I do it with the power ratings, but I mean, this computer in front of me has Ohio State #1 right now. They haven't played anyone.
Yeah. Right.
And so I certainly can't say them if you're asking me my opinion. I don't know. I think that second half that Georgia just played against South Carolina was great, but everyone's penalizing them because they were 14-3 down in the first half. I don't know that we've seen that yet. Have you seen a dominant performance yet, and I'm just forgetting it?
Yeah, it would be Texas going into
Alabama. Yeah, okay. That one, yes. And also, I think the Florida win last week was pretty good, but they're already kind of off everyone's radar. Yeah, that Texas game was wild, man. That was a wild scene.
So you're going to be in South Bend this weekend?
We will be up there, yep.
Nice. Bro, your work is awesome. It's great to catch up with you. One more before I get out of here. LSU, Brian Kelly, and this team, there was a lot of expectation in year 2 for LSU, and I think that's why the roller coaster ride has been as up and down as it's been here through the first 3 weeks. What do you anticipate from this team as they move forward? It feels like they're starting to figure it out on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, that's not shocking. Like, that's what a Brian Kelly team's going to do. I think you'll rarely ever go back in time and see his team get worse over the course of any given season. So they will continue to ascend. Now, we don't know what the ceiling is for the team yet, but also just keep this in mind. Like I said earlier, if we're claiming this as a chaos season, which I think it will be, and we kind of only just begun on that front, I don't even think a second loss rules you out of anything this year. So everyone who's got one loss right now and they feel like they're operating with no safety net, that's wonderful. You should feel that way anyway. But I don't think it's the end of the world if you lose a second game, just because I think that's the kind of year it is this year.
Keep up the great work. We'll be watching tonight, man. And let us know when you get to Baton Rouge. Josh Pate,
I
our favorite.
Appreciate it, brother.
There he is, man. Checking in this morning, Josh Pate. Check him out tonight at Late Kick with Josh on YouTube. You can check that out. And don't forget, this Saturday, outside of Mike the Tiger's cage on campus, you can check out Tiger Air. Well, they will be set up. They'll have a little kiosk there, and they will be giving you your opportunity to shop their standard Zephyr standard series model that we have, the Born on the Bayou model, the purple and gold Tiger Air that you can clip on your hat, you can clip on your shirt. If you want to stay cool, TigerAir.com, TigerAir.com to keep up with that. Good stuff from Josh Pate. We are going to talk to our friend Matt Markway, who is
fresh off a killing
Gators
streak
right now. Stu, I'm going to share this contact with you if you want to call Mr. Markway as he is down on the bayou enjoying a little coffee with the boys after a day of killing yesterday as they were down in the swamps tagging and bragging
and bagging
about some gators that they were picking up yesterday. A couple of 10-footers, Markway said, who still looks like he can play. By the way,
did he use a gun?
Pictures, I don't know. We're about to figure all this out.
Because I feel like we had some pretty strong inclination. He might dive in the water.
Right.
He might go full Irwin.
That's right.
Crikey.
That's right. So we're going to check in with our guy, Matt Markway, Donnie Bozeman, and the crew down there. We're getting him going down at Butte LaRose this morning, or it was yesterday morning was the actual hunt. So we really want to keep up or get an update from him. Good stuff from Josh Pate. Man, you heard Pate. This college football weekend, it's going to be incredible to just sit back and watch this stuff, kind of play out. Just the enormous games. We didn't even ask him about Oregon and Colorado. I kind of feel like this one might be. Look, Deion has done incredible of getting the best out of this team up to this point. I think this weekend he might be walking into a buzzsaw.
Well, it feels like with the loss of Travis Hunter, obviously, because what he did both ways,
right.
you can't make up for that. You have to find two players to replace him. If they still had Travis Hunter, I think everybody would be still on the Deion in the Colorado bandwagon because this is a game that Oregon usually loses. Like when you look through history and Oregon plays somebody with some talent, it feels like it never really breaks their way.
All right, so we saw our guy last weekend, Matt Markway, the big talented tight end out of Missouri, out of St. Louis. Just met high, the high school that LSU's got a lot of ties to, of course, with Robert Steeples and crew, Makai Wingo. Matt Markway, the tight end, who was a big get in recruiting and really was buzzing. Man, his name was really starting to buzz throughout fall camp. And you saw last week with Mason Taylor out, in Mason Taylor being down, that Matt Markway got his first SEC start as a true freshman. That had to be a very proud moment for the Markway family, who I know has been huge fans of football for forever. I mean, this is almost like tight end family, as the uncles played tight end, the dad played tight end, now the son's playing tight end, another son played tight end. I mean, it's just
tight end you.
It is a legacy of tight ends there. And we were able to really strike up a pretty cool relationship with them during recruiting. Matt came on the show a couple of times during his recruitment, and the family, Matt and his wife, became listeners over in St. Louis, and we got a relationship. And they are avid outdoors people and adventurous, and seem like someone who really loves the outdoors and hunting, and wanted to experience alligator hunting. So with our network, we were able to just kind of put it out. If you were listening and watching the show, you'll recall one morning we just came in, sat down, and said, look, Matt Markway wants to go gator hunting. Who can help? And by the time we had logged off the air, we had a couple of emails of people who said that they could help, and Donnie Bozeman and the crew were able to make that happen. And yesterday morning, put Matt on a boat in the swamp down at Butte LaRose, and it sounds like they had a great day. Let's check in with them down at the camp now. And what a cool week for you, Mr. Markway. Your son makes his SEC debut for the Tigers on Saturday, and you're in Baton Rouge and down in South Louisiana on Wednesday morning bagging gators. This was a cool week for you, and then
bucket list
going into an SEC home opener in Tiger Stadium on Saturday night. What a cool time to be alive. Good morning. How are you?
Great, Jordy. How are you? And first of all, I just want to thank you for making this happen. And it's definitely a bucket list item. I'll be doing it again, I guarantee you that. And Matt getting a start. Proud of him on that. And just what a great week. Now we're going into Arkansas, and what a great week to get away from work and spend it down here with the great people of Louisiana.
So tell me about yesterday. Tell me about the gator hunt. You seem like you are a big outdoorsman. What was yesterday's experience like?
Oh, man, totally different where I'm from. You know, we're more, we don't have gators up north there. So, and to be honest, I think it's the first animal I've hunted that could hunt me.
Oh.
So, we started out in the morning and did it the bait way. We put out some baits the day before, and probably like the things you've seen on Swamp People.
Mm-hmm.
And we went and chased some baits down, and we got two 6.5 footers to start us out in the morning on baits, which is I'm real excited for. I'm a big cowboy boot guy, and I'm getting those two gators made into cowboy boots.
Oh, nice.
So that's
One for each
one
foot.
per foot.
Yeah.
One per foot. Yep. And I got to get my wife something too for letting me come down here. So, but and then in the afternoon we did it a pretty cool way. You might have seen it on TV before, but we kind of find the gators and we chase down the big bulls in the boat, and then we treble hook them.
Okay.
And hook them and pull them into the boat and take care of them that way. And we were lucky enough to get about a 9.5 footer yesterday afternoon, and that was intense. That was intense because they're pretty. I mean, your boat's about 14 feet, and he was pushing 10 foot. So that was cool, and we brought him back, and that one we're going to do a head mount on that one. So, but I can't say enough about the hospitality of everybody down here, from the camp here and from the gator processing place and the taxidermy and just the markets. Bear's Market, man, that's some good boudin balls there.
Absolutely.
But just everybody has been so genuine, and I'm just speechless on that. Just speechless.
Is it everything? Is it everything you kind of had it cracked up to be in your mind of kind of gator hunting?
Better.
Yeah.
Better. Yeah, better. And being a hunter, you always go in. You don't want to set your expectations up too high. So you. Sure. But they exceeded the expectations. And listen to this. You want to hear a small world type of detail? So the boat picks me up on Friday to cross the river onto the island. The guy driving the boat, great guy named Kim. We got talking. He's a big hunter. He's just got back from Africa doing a leopard hunt and Cape Buffalo hunt over there. He was hunting with my buddy last week in Mozambique, Africa. The boat that picked me up.
That is crazy, man.
And just a small. I actually talked to my buddy in Mozambique last night, and he's like, "What? No." And I was like, "No." I said, "Yeah, I know Kim. He's a good guy, isn't he?" He's like, "How do you know Kim?" So,
I'm with him right now.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a small world, and
that is so cool.
I'm excited. I get a day, which I don't really get often with work, to come spend an extra day with Mac in Baton Rouge. So then my wife flies in tonight, and I'll pick her up at the airport and get ready to beat the Hogs, right?
Oh, yeah. So take me to last weekend, because I don't know a lot of people know the true Markway story or Mac's story, that he did not play football his junior and senior year. He didn't play the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. So this is kind of like, not only for him kind of breaking through and getting back on the field, it's for the family. It's the first time to watch him play in a while. How cool has this all been?
And Mac's story is unique. It's very unique. And, Mac would... in 8th grade, he was 8th grade, 9th grade, sophomore year, was the number one tight end in the country. A lot of hype. And he was, he got offered by Jim Harbaugh in 8th grade. Mm-hmm. And then he was Saban's first offer in the 23 class. And then he had, he was playing excellent, had an injury, and fought through it, matured him, got to this point. It worked out like a blessing. Things fell into place to get him to LSU. And he's just a worker. I think Mac's he's a worker. He's a weight room guy. He's a nutrition guy. He's going to do everything little. And our family has always taken a lot of pride. And from a young age, yeah, he's going to catch his passes and make his plays. But our family's always been pretty hard on the younger boys. You can be pretty out there, but you need to be physical. And that's what I'm more proud of. Getting his feet wet in that. And that's just going to help him out and help him turn it on for the rest of the season.
Did you get his experience last week? He had to be walking on clouds after last
He
Saturday.
was very happy.
Yeah.
He was very happy, but also critical of every little error that he made, to the point where I'm like, hey man, just play football. Mm-hmm. He's a perfectionist. Well, so but he loves it. He absolutely loves being down here. And, we can't say enough about the state of Louisiana. We just can't. And our whole family is just on cloud nine with all of you.
I had somebody telling me about his performance inside the program, and obviously he had one of those freshman moments in the first half, and BK got after him a little bit, and he said, look, Brian Kelly does not hand that out to people that he doesn't know, or to people that he knows that can't handle it. And for Markway, he said he said that should show people about what Kelly feels about that freshman by not only putting him out there, but then lighting him up in that instance, knowing he could go back out there and handle his job.
Yeah, he's Mac's a mature kid, and he's had his butt chewed before.
Sounds like
good. Get after him, coach.
He's a little callous from that, I think. But no, he's a very mature kid, and he's also a smart football player. Where he'll make a mistake, but every kid makes mistakes out there. But as long as you fix it, right, you got to fix it and don't do it again. So. That's what makes a good football player.
The pictures are fantastic from yesterday. We've been flashing them on the screen throughout the interview. We put them out on social media yesterday. Man, we are so glad that this worked out, Mr. Markway, and to have you down in South Louisiana for the week in between your son's first start, killing a Gator, and then to the SEC opener in Tiger Stadium is a week you should remember forever. We sure will, in being a part of it. So thanks for allowing us.
Can't thank you guys enough. And you know what, Jordy? We got to get you on a boat out here one day.
I'd love to. Tell Donnie Bozeman and the crew I'll be there.
Yeah, I will. Thanks, guys.
You're saving a life.
All right, Matt. Thank you. Yeah, right. Seriously. There he is, Matt Markway, the man. Wow, cool perspective and insight there. For people that don't know, the Matt Markway story is wild. His recruitment. Just him blowing up so early in recruiting, then back-to-back knee injuries where he does not play his junior or senior year to stick in recruiting, stick with football first.
Right.
First and foremost, keep playing the game, and then end up on an SEC campus and starting as a true freshman has got to be a really cool moment. But if you do a little kind of bloodline search of the Markways, they are made to be tight ends. The whole family looks like nothing but square jaws, 6'4", broad shoulders, and can run. They are just like the O'Doyles. They fit it to every sense of the world. A lot of people think that I'm going to flake out on the Gator hunt.
Absolutely.
There's a huge shot that'll happen, but this does have me a little interested. I do believe if I was in that treble hook 9-footer in the 14-foot boat, I don't know how I would react.
No, like you said, it's a 14-foot boat, and you're pulling in a 10-foot Gator.
There's three people in it.
Yeah.
Not to mention Markway, who's I think 6'4", 240.
I could supervise. Catch a tail, catch a tail. Let's see it back.
Right. I'm a camp guy.
Yeah.
Really.
Y'all bring it back
at the hunting lease and at the hunting trip. I am more of a camp guy, and I have served that role like the all-star of the hunters. Right.
Yes.
I appreciate that role. I appreciate it. I don't. I don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. to go to the stand. I don't need to do the early being quiet, walking up, not being able to talk.
Guns on safety.
Just not my deal.
Get down.
Man. I'll be slept in.
Breakfast.
Food's ready. Favors for everyone when they get back. It's all good, man.
Yeah. But I feel like a Gator hunt's such a different experience to where it's like going to the camp.
I would like to see it.
Yeah, but it feels like you're missing. You can't.
But I kind of want to be on the other boat where I could be like, "That was sweet.
Film it. Yeah.
I'll be back."
Spin this thing around.
You get the sandwiches ready for lunch, fellas.
Yeah, maybe you could do a. It feels like the baited line isn't so bad. I know it's still a 6-foot alligator, but feels less dangerous than pulling one up out the water.
Oof.
Which seems like just. You had to be Matt Markway.
That was what
you had to be like a certain physical condition.
Ronnie and the boys were doing.
Yeah.
Swamp people. All right, remember, Daily, we're brought to you by Go Roof
Then we did the deal. That shot it in the head.
GEAUXroof.com. Go Roof. You can find them there at GEAUXroof.com. Remember, residential, commercial roofing, or if you need roofing repair, get in touch with Go Roof. You can find them there, or you can get in touch with them just by dialing 927-8300, 225-927-8300. 8300 is the phone number to get in touch with Go Roof. A beautiful roof every single time. You get that 2-year free workmanship guarantee when you work alongside Go Roof. Trusted name, over 15 years of experience. They give you that free inspection if you want. They can jump up on the roof for you today, give you that inspection, give you the feedback. They'll work directly with the insurance company and take the headaches out of it for you. Go Roof is online, GEAUXroof.com, GEAUXroof.com, 225-927-8300. A beautiful roof every single time. Hit that like button, share button, comment button. We'll be back with more of the show built by R&B.
I was about to cry.
Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check him out online at redsticksports.biz.
The Jordy Culotta Show is brought to you by A-Bears Lawn Maintenance. Commercial or residential, A-Bears Lawn Maintenance is ready to work. A-Bears can tackle all your homeowners association requirements. Call Blake at 225-485-8022. A-Bears Lawn Maintenance.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team.
Here we go.
Thanks. And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us. Get it done.
Hey Tiger fans, when you're traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, make sure to visit Tom and Wright Granning at Go Mart and On The Go Deli, where you can fill up your tank and your belly. Go Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you may need on your trip. Located at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left. Also stop by Wardo's Po' Boys at 309 North Broadway on the beautiful Natchez Bluff, where the Po' Boys are so good you'll swear you're in Cajun country.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
All right, buddy. Make it a good shot. Oh, yeah. Sticking the roof in.
For a hole in your roof, or a whole new roof, Go Roof. Roof, roof, Go Roof.
Hey, Greg, the roof up?
Roof's up.
Roof's up.
Roof's up.
Roof's up.
Roof's up.
Roof's up. Beautiful roof every single time.
True. True.
Phil's Oyster Bar, a staple of South Louisiana since 1945, located in Southdown Shopping Center and online at philsoysterbar.com. If you log online, you can learn about the private party schedule, the catering menu, and even order online. Daily lunch specials Monday through Friday. Learn about the history when Gus Piazza took it over in the early 70s, made it an absolute stop-in for everyone who came through Baton Rouge, and now Anthony, his son, carrying on the tradition. Phil's Oyster Bar, Southdown Shopping Center, and online, philsoysterbar.com.
Let's be special. Let's be strong. Let's spell greatness from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
the Tigers going to try it on 4th down. 4th and 6. Daniels. Long snap count here. He will get the football. He will look middle. Then he will launch it towards the end zone right side. Malik Neighbors over the shoulder catch. Touchdown! Fighting Tigers. 33-yard strike. Second score of the day for Neighbors. Perfect throw over the shoulder. Neighbors got separation on Hunter Washington. And it's now 16-0 as the Tigers go for it on 4th and 6 and come up big.
There is the call of the week last.
So the Tigers going to try it on 4th.
Voice on the LSU Radio Sports Network as weekly. They give you those calls, and as always, you can catch Blaire here every Thursday morning with us on the Jordy Culotta Show. He will be over at TJ Ribs tonight for the Coaches Weekly Show, as the Brian Kelly Show will originate there on South Acadian Thruway, and with the 6 o'clock kickoff on Saturday inside Tiger Stadium. The pregame show will crank up for you at 4 p.m. as Blaire will walk you right into kickoff on the LSU Sports Radio Network. Welcome back. That had to be fun last weekend.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was high energy. I mean, the team was ready to go. Of course, much has been made. It was a boisterous breakfast, and
That's right.
Then we had a little stopover somewhere. I actually was talking to somebody. I said, "Where are you?" I said, "I have no idea." But we are stopped at a car dealership. The guys got out and stretched, a little mini walkthrough, and really, I think just as Coach Kelly later alluded to, just it was an hour drive from the hotel in Tupelo to the stadium. I think we rolled out at like 7:15. There's a chance the guys might take a little cat nap. And he didn't want to have that to happen. So if they did, they had to snap out of it there at the car dealership.
Uh-huh.
And look, man, it seemed to work. I mean, it was like letting the bulls loose. I mean, when they pulled the gate and the chute opened and they came onto the field, I mean, Mississippi State, that game was already over. I mean, 12 yards on the first play of scrimmage for Mississippi State. They end up with 2 plays over 20 yards in that game, 4 yards a play. I mean, the offense was spectacular. Jaden was spectacular. Malik was spectacular. And defensively, they just imposed their will on Mississippi State. I mean, it was something to see.
It was as good of a performance as Brian Kelly has had since leading the program that I can remember, right?
I think top to bottom, I mean, there was, you just try to think of any time during that game outside of that first play where they completed for 12 yards. And then Jaquavius Marks, who's I think one of the better running backs in the conference, had the 52-yard run to set up their score in the second quarter. I think Sai'vion Thomas had a catch where he went out of bounds. He caught it, went out of bounds for 20, 22 yards. And then outside of that, it wasn't just hit and miss. It was a lot of miss for Mississippi State. I think they've got some major issues that this overhaul from the air raid to the more power-based is going to take a little bit longer. But LSU just whipped them. I mean, just punched them in the mouth. And, I think back, I don't know if it would have changed anything in that opening game, but, that's kind of what we were expecting to see in Orlando. And for whatever reason, it wasn't there. And, that's how they handled Grambling, but it's hard to, gauge whether or not how's that going to translate once you play, a Power 5 team. But, again, they looked solid on Saturday.
Speaking of expectation going into the season, that's what I thought Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors would look like. Not the 200, but I mean that type of chemistry, that type of, you see one-on-one, they're going to attack it. And, I mean, the 13 targets, 13 grabs, 2 touchdowns, still had a third. I mean, that looks like that's where it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, it was 15, completions in the first quarter, which is a school record, which that shocked me. When you think about some of the great quarterbacks, I mean, not that that's easy. I couldn't go out and do it, but I mean, again, that shows you how precise he was. He went 30 for 34. There was a time where we were keeping check in the booth how long he would go with consecutive completions to start the game.
Yeah. And the 13th was a throwaway.
Yeah, right, exactly. If you minus that, and what was cool about Malik was they were using him everywhere. I mean, it felt like he had more than 2 touchdowns because he, again, he had 13 catches, but he was catching deep. He was catching underneath. He was on drag routes. Yep. It was, and I think that really caused Mississippi State trouble. That they were like, okay, let's move a corner. Let's try this guy on him. Okay, let's have a safety shadow him. It just doesn't matter. And the thing we said on the air that I think Gordy pointed out on the sideline that was impressive, and Brian mentioned it Monday on the press conference, was Jaden made all the throws. And while the over-the-shoulder that we just saw, was a beautiful pass, I was more impressed with him getting positive yards. Like, if he didn't have the big hitter, he was able to scan the field, go through his progressions, took some hits too, stood in the pocket, took some hits. But, some of those dump-offs for 4 or 5 yards, now you're not behind the chains. You didn't throw it away. You didn't take a sack. You didn't try to needle it through, a tight window and maybe get a turnover. I mean, he made all the right decisions and, again, executed his throws at a high level. And, if they put the effort, execution, which is not easy to do, I know that. But if they do that, there's a chance to win a bunch of games down the stretch.
I thought your call of Caleb Jackson's run was one of my favorite of the day. I think you laughed.
My God.
At the end of it. I think you laughed out loud on the
My son, I got to give credit to my son Crafton because he went to high school with Caleb, and he's been telling me since they were sophomores, freshmen, I don't even remember, this guy's something. And, when everybody in the country was coming to see him, and then when he eventually signed with LSU, wanted to stay home, I mean, we were excited just because of the connection. But, yeah, I think when you're watching that unfold, and he absolutely just planted the guy with the hand and then was like, I'm still not done. And the other defender comes up like, all right, you're going to show out. And then, boom, he gets leveled. It was almost funny because it was like he is absolutely out here whipping people.
I mean, and even took the hit of standing up to celebrate. He took that one well.
Yeah. I mean, Jet Johnson, I don't want to get hit by Jet Johnson, but that didn't affect Caleb at all. Right. So, it was great. And I thought the run game overall, I mean, Jaden again was the leading rusher, which I don't think, and Brian said it point blank last week on the radio show, that's not the design for success long term. But again, I thought the runs where they, it was a designed run, it was called at the right time. Mississippi State was on their heels. And when you watch that game, I went back and watched it yesterday, you start to see after they hit a couple to Malik and even Brian Thomas, suddenly Mississippi State's defense was a good almost 10 yards off the line of scrimmage outside of the 3-man rush or 4-man rush. Like, their linebackers were dropping back so deep. And again, I think that's why Jaden had success when he needed to check down and get positive yards. And then when, he on the zone read pulled and he was going to get 7 or 8 yards before anybody got to him. So I thought Coach Denbrock did a good job of calling the game based on what Mississippi State was trying to do. And then at the end of the day, the guys got to go out and execute, and they did.
Are you too deep in the forest of LSU and preparing for game day and what game day is? You got to pronounce everybody's name right. You got to know what their major is, where they went to high school. Do you watch college football on a day like Saturday where there's so many games?
Well, the fact that we played at 11 and that Coach Kelly's team is so efficient at when the game is over and getting on the bus, getting to the airport. Like, I was home by 6 o'clock on Saturday.
But like this Saturday coming up, there's a great slate of games. You don't play until 6.
I'll get to see some of them because, again, we got a lot of stuff going on site, but this past Saturday was the one that I literally got to watch. It was probably the most college football without any distractions that I've had in a long time, So I'm not a big advocate for 11 a.m. games.
Right.
But when they're over.
Yeah, but I prefer them on the road. They're miserable at home. But, yeah, I mean, I'll get to see a little bit this Saturday. But, again, there's so much going on. We got the stage to get ready and the sound to get ready. And so, I mean, I have it on in my office. But it was enjoyable to watch. I mean, I was flipping through, doing multi-screens Saturday night. I'm like, this is why people enjoy it.
I get it.
I forget. This is why college football is popular.
Yeah, look how cool this kid is.
Yeah.
So it feels like defensively they're starting to take those big strides.
Yeah.
Right?
How about Whit Weeks, man?
Whit Weeks, Andre Sam.
And Andre Sam. I mean, I was told, 2-3 weeks into fall camp that this Whit Week kid can play. And, of course, his older brother West, transferred in from Virginia. And then, we get to the stadium on Saturday and we hear the news that, we knew that Space wasn't going to play, and then we hear that Greg Brooks on the back end is unavailable, and suddenly you think, okay, who are those people? And it's Ryan Yates, who we've seen a little bit of, but he's got a lot of upside, but he's pretty green.
Yeah.
And Whit Weeks, you kind of felt like, okay, he'll get in there. Suddenly, almost every single play I look up, number 40's got his hat in the middle of the action. sideline to sideline. And, I think eventually finished with 8 tackles to lead the team. And I thought, again, Andre Sam played extremely well. And Coach Kelly said, I mean, if you go back and listen, he said multiple times, like, we're not tied to you're a true freshman or you're a redshirt freshman transfer and, you got to wait your time. If you provide the energy, you go out and make plays. I mean, he's got no problem putting young guys in over veterans. And I thought a couple of those guys on Saturday, with the way they played and the consistency they played with every snap that they were on the field, I got a feeling that we're going to see a lot more of them.
You're a parent. You've got son. You got daughter. This Greg Brooks story.
Oh, my goodness, man.
Just...
Yeah, we kind of got wind of a little. We didn't get all the details, but we had wind that it was much more than, much more than what anybody thought it was. We had heard some issues about vertigo during fall camp, which I can't imagine. You think about that, trying to play any sport and taking contact. And then when we found out Saturday that there was a lot more to it, which eventually came out this week, it's just a pit in your stomach, and not only because you're a parent, but just thinking about it in terms of happening to you. I mean, that's you hear those words they put together, that Coach Kelly put together during the teleconference yesterday, and that his family put out in their announcement. I mean, that makes you shudder, because that's nothing to fool around with. So, it's great because he's the type of kid that he is. He'll have a great care, and we all hope, like you and everybody else, that that we see him back on a football field soon. But more importantly, that he is safe and he is healthy, and all of that is put in the rearview mirror sooner than later.
Amen. I mean, you could feel it in the tone of Kelly post-game in the locker room and some of the video putting out. I mean, it was like,
yeah,
this is serious.
Well, you saw Sam Pittman. I'm sure Sam got information because of his ties to the family. So when he had his press conference Monday, I mean, he kind of you knew, if you didn't know exactly what had happened or what was happening. I mean, I think that was a big indication that it wasn't vertigo.
Yeah.
Anyway, best wishes to him. We're all thinking and praying for his quick and speedy recovery.
Without question. Tonight, 7 o'clock, Brian Kelly's show, live from TJ Ribbs, LSU Sports Radio Network. Remember, every time you see Blaire, he is dressed by Carriage's Clothier, which is right here in Baton Rouge in Jefferson Highway Shopping Center. You can find them online. They're on Facebook. They've got those alternate LSU logos that Blaire's always rocking, that you can find compliments of our friends over at Carriage's.
Yeah, go by and see Will, man.
Yeah.
Always fun. You can go over and hang out a while. It's, like I said, it's got a real family vibe to it. We going to talk about Arkansas at all? Or are we done?
I was going to say this Arkansas game is one kind of in the,
I prepped for this.
in the history of this. It's kind of been a weird.
Yeah.
You've seen it change.
Yeah.
I mean, your first one, I think, was when Fournette only read it 5 times in the freezing cold, and they got beat after Alabama. to really putting an emphasis on the game, to not slip and fall, to kind of where it is now. What do you make of this?
Yeah,
this
and last year was wacky. We got up there and the field was covered in ice, and they were trying to clear the field. I mean, it just looked like you couldn't see really. When we got to the booth, we looked down and it just looked like a skating rink.
Rockefeller Center.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you couldn't see the lines or anything. I mean, it was mainly just a white sheen. And, of course, that was a knockdown drag out. And without Harold Perkins Jr., I'm not sure LSU comes out of that game with a win. But I went and looked back. They've been SEC opponents since 92. They played a lot early. I think their first meeting was in 1901.
Yeah.
So they played football for a long time. And then there was this huge gap.
That's right. Like Tommy Hodson never played Arkansas.
Yeah.
There was
that is crazy.
It's crazy.
So, but I think they've won 20 since they joined the SEC. LSU's 20-11 in those matchups. If you look at the last 10 matchups, I think it's 7 out of 10 they've won. So again, there's the battle of the boot, and that's all great. But I've said it, and I don't really mean it out of disrespect. I think it's true. I think Arkansas looks at this as a bigger game and has really since they joined the SEC.
Yeah, I don't think you can debate it.
And to me, that makes this game dangerous for that reason. Now, I know Coach Kelly is in there and has been all week talking about how, KJ Jefferson and what they can do. Rocket Sanders was expected to be back. So I know they're not consciously they're not thinking about Arkansas. Oh, we've dominated this rivalry because they had nothing to do with it. But that for me makes it dangerous. And the fact that last week, to open that game, Arkansas looked like they were going to boat race BYU. I mean, Razorback Stadium was rocking. Suddenly BYU gets a couple of scores, and then it's 31-31 going into the fourth quarter. And then Arkansas looked like they wore down. Our offensive line wore down. KJ Jefferson couldn't do much, and that was about the only weapon they had. So we'll see. He only ran the ball 16 times, which is surprising to me. But I guess they figured, going through the gauntlet of the SEC, if he's going to run the ball 30 times, he may not be available in the last couple of weeks of the season, which is exactly what happened last year.
You expect Harold Perkins to have the same output as he did last year?
I mean, I'm certain they are game planning to try to minimize the damage he can do. But I don't know that you can stop it. I think he's comfortable now. I think Coach House is comfortable now, and he was incredible. This will be the first time he didn't see KJ Jefferson last year.
That's right.
Much bigger dude.
That's right.
I heard Greg Penn talk this week in a media session that you got to go low. I mean, you can't go up top. People that try to go up top against Jefferson, he usually can get through those tackles. So I'm sure Perkins is working on his technique, and it'll be. I think that's one of the more interesting matchups within the game.
I agree.
Is how he goes after Jefferson.
Carriage's Clothing, you can find them right here in Baton Rouge, Jefferson Highway Shopping Center. Chris Blaire, of course, he is rocking their gear every week here on the show and on the broadcast on Saturday, tonight at TJ Ribs, so you can find him on Facebook and catch him here every Thursday. Have a great call this weekend.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to a great atmosphere, great Saturday, and let's go have some fun against them Hogs.
Your comments next here. We close it out. Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by R&B Builders.
Malik Neighbors, a wide receiver.
Favorite pregame meal?
Popeyes.
What would winning a national championship mean to you?
It would mean a lot to me because, we seen a lot of the greats come through here, won their national championship, got, remembered for life.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Probably fly. That or telekinesis.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Do it wrong, do it long. Do it right, do it light.
Kyra Lacey, wide receiver, number 2.
Do you have any nicknames?
K2.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
Stay humble.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Fly. I be flying in my dreams.
What's been the highlight of your partnership with us?
The bike giveaway was one of the best things. I was pretty excited about that one. Texas A&M, I just got a point to prove because last year I dropped 2 balls I should have caught. I'm coming for them for real.
That's it. Thank you, man.
My name is Harold Perkins, and I play linebacker.
What's your favorite pre-game meal or snack?
Pasta with a little steak, something that's not too heavy.
Any superstitions or pre-game rituals?
I pray a lot. Just be me and God before the game. Perky worky. I like when they call me the percolator. I like that.
If anyone gets in a wreck, who should they call?
Gordon.
Thanks. Where were you born at, Greg?
Hattiesburg, Mississippi. But I claim 504 food because I was raised there my whole life. Favorite type of food is spaghetti. But you need to try spaghetti with some corn on the side. Funniest person, I'd probably get Kyron Lacey. He be having joked out every time I talk to him.
Who's the most athletic?
Besides myself. Perk or Malik. Future self, just take one day at a time, one step at a time. If you're doing something, just be where your feet are. Make sure you give 100% effort.
What is something on your bucket list?
Win a Super Bowl. That's definitely on my bucket list.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Time traveling.
Who's the fastest on the team?
Like in a short span, I would say quick trigger, I'm taking Perk. One thing most people don't know about me, probably that I moved 12 times growing up, 12 different states.
Who's the most savage on the team?
Mason Smith, definitely.
And who gets it done?
Gordon.
Thank you, man. That's great.
Emory Jones, right tackle.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Got it from my mom, and she just told me, always keep your head on the swivel.
Favorite subject?
Math, easy. I kind of keep it light. Give me some type of red beans or something like that. Throw a little cornbread on the side.
Light with red beans.
Yeah, just a little bit. I am superstitious. I got some PSDs that's purple and yellow and white. I wear them every game. I feel like they my lucky draws, and you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep doing it.
Let's be special. Let's be strong. Let's spell greatness from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
All right, welcome back here. Jordy Culotta Show. As always, we are built by RMB Builders. Check out RMB online at rmb-builders.com. And remember, daily we come to you live here from our Click Here digital campus. Love it over here at Click Here, man.
Never a bad
people
day.
Being a part of the team, bro. Tell everybody. They're like, what's it like over there? It's like a beehive. Like people just like buzzing around doing stuff. You take people across the street. Got two facilities over here. 20,000 square feet of office space. The bulk of it is across the street from our studio, where it is just a two-story digital marketing full-stack agency. There's like rooms sectioned off. This room does SEO. This room does YouTube. This room does Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube. I mean, all of the socials.
Do you see the video they put out on social and Instagram? It's like, what do you think you work at Google, but it's actually Click Here.
Right.
I was like, that's exactly what I felt like when I walked in.
Well, and the story of it is crazy because, I mean, like they're a top Google partner. Like they're a platinum Google partner. They have access. They have their own work staff from Google in New York City that's dedicated to Click Here. Like, I mean, think about the last time you got Google on the phone. Never. They can. It's crazy. Like they have a contact at Google. They have a contact at YouTube. They have a contact at Facebook.
Would have been nice 3 years ago.
Speaking of Click Here, Austin Gayron, who is now a part of our staff over here, helping us out, and we put this invite out to a couple of staff members to get some different faces from Click Here over here. But Austin has a huge role over at Click Here, and is now a part of the show. But Austin has seen it front line. He has been a part of a lot of automotive conversations with clients that has taken, automotive dealers to the next level, really? I mean, like to different levels.
To top 10 in the nation, in the world.
And all of that tracked right here at Click Here Digital. So online at clickheredigital.com or email me, Jordy@clickheredigital.com. I'll pass you off to the right people. I'm sure Austin will be a part of the process. But like we said, over 150 employees, there is somebody for everybody over here. You got an issue, you need your business to start moving, you need the bottom line to start changing for the better, get in touch with Click Here Digital. We can make it happen. clickheredigital.com. Austin, some comments. What are we looking at over there?
Man, everybody loved Matt's interview over here. A lot of people saying that he looks like a Budweiser guy. I was like, I can see that for sure. But I saw one comment earlier that kind of was I liked a lot, or it made me interested. Kenny asked, will Clyde Edwards get his motor running again? And I asked that too because I went to Catholic High, so I went to school with Clyde Edwards, was on the track team with him, on the football team with him a little bit. I know this guy's drive too, so I know that honestly he's probably deep down pissed off about how he's been doing, but wanted to get y'all's take.
I think Clyde is in a situation where we're looking at, we were talking about Leonard Fournette in the break, and the running back position in the NFL is slowly becoming, I don't want to say it's extinct because you have to have it, but it is, by the definition, it is now a revolving door. Like, you're now finding the best guy who is the cheapest. And things that are happening to people like Saquon Barkley right now, where all offseason, what was Saquon's storyline? He wanted to get paid. He was pissed that Daniel Jones got the bag. He deserved the bag from Saquon Barkley's standpoint. And when you really kind of like look at the body of work and what they mean to the franchise, you could probably argue that a guy like Saquon he's got a platform, he's got a voice, like he's got an argument. But when it comes down to it, in the third week of the season, Saquon's already hurt. He's already off the field. And if you're paying him franchise money, how is that a smart investment? When you look around the league and routinely that money goes to the quarterback because that's the most important position that you have to shore up. And it's been proven that a running back, with all due respect, I say this in the terms of professional football, it's not hard to find one. It's a very hard job to do. It's a very difficult thing to do. But if you are in that talent pool of a running back that can play at the highest level, well, then it is by the sense of the term next man up. And for Clyde was that dude, but then he got hurt. And when you get hurt at running back in the NFL, you open up the door and an opportunity for somebody else. And usually the running back position is a fairly, again, I use this term with all due respect, easy transition from college to the highest level. Not easy in the sense of you step in and you're a star. It's just when you look at all of the positions on the field, running back is usually one of the most easiest to step in and play, right? Not a lot of responsibility outside of pass protection, running into the right hole, and being able to make plays. So, I mean, you've been doing that pretty much your whole life if you've been a running back. And for Clyde, I think Clyde's going to be fine. Like, I think he'll be in the league. I don't necessarily think he'll be with Kansas City.
Right.
Just because Kansas City's going to look at it from a financial standpoint and say, look, you got a couple of undrafted guys or late draft picks that are producing for you now. Now, they're going to be up at the table in a couple of years, and they're going to have to do the same thing. They're going to have to find a replacement for what's my guy's name?
Isaiah Pacheco.
He got frustrated in the offseason.
7th round
because
pick.
Wouldn't you?
Rutgers.
You know?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He's the focal point of a Super Bowl championship winning team.
But they're not going to pay him right now.
They're
He's
not
a
going to
rookie.
pay anybody at running back.
Still on like his rookie deal.
Nobody's going to get paid at running back anymore.
They treat it like fantasy football.
They absolutely do.
Everybody's
you can
on the waiver
pick
wire.
Up 2 in the 6th and 7th round, pick up an undrafted free agent, bring him in, show them, dangle the carrot of playing time in front of them, keep them motivated, fresh, put them out there until they blow their leg out and go find the next one. I mean, that's as harsh and as brutal as that may sound, that is the business of it. That's the business of being a running back in the league right now. A commodity in a position that a decade ago was argued as the most important position on the field has now become lost. Really, I mean, it's wild. I can't really explain it other than the fact is they've got many options and they don't want to pay. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, you look at Fournette's draft class. Christian McCaffrey has signed a long-term deal. Alvin Kamara has signed a long-term deal. But outside of that, I mean, did Dalvin Cook get big money in Minnesota? Is it that what he's looking for?
Dalvin Cook is not with Minnesota anymore.
No, but I mean, did he get a contract in Minnesota before they waived him, and now he's on the street and signed with New York? You know what I mean?
I think he wanted to re-up on his deal. Like he wanted to
I think he had already signed a decent deal.
If you're a running back, you have to have a skill set like McCaffrey and Kamara to get paid now. They don't pay these downhill runners big money like they paid, you know, I mean, obviously a guy like Adrian Peterson was a little bit of an outlier, but a guy that you could feed 25, 30 times a game in today's NFL, you're not getting the big contract just because they don't trust the durability. They don't trust the investment. I mean, look at Saquon Barkley. What did they do? They gave him a 1-year, $12 million deal. In the third game of the season, he's got a high ankle sprain. Who knows if he'll be back?
Same thing with Austin Eckler.
And if he comes back, how productive is he? Right? In the offseason, he wants all the money, and by the first month of the year, he's not playing. I think it's gonna be brutal for running backs in the league.
They're gonna have to do something to where it gets probably changed within the NFL guidelines whenever they have to handle this position correctly, whether it's they change the way that you can tag running backs and quarterbacks, you know, that you can only use a franchise tag on a running back or something like that, to where they have to be able to get their money correct, or else nobody's going to want to play the position. Like, they're going to have the CBA needs to get this thing collectively bargained to where you can take care of everybody 1 through 32, and you can't expose them. I mean, this is an exposure of essentially a loophole in the NFL contracts. Like, we can just figure it out because the way the sport has changed, you have to be the 1 of 1% to be able to get paid to play the position, to essentially play two positions. Like Debo, whenever he went to the table, he was like, you could pay me as a wide receiver, play me as a wide receiver and running back, but if you pay me as that, you're going to have to come to the table. Or just pay me as a wide receiver, and I'm not playing running back ever again. Because the usage rate that I'm getting, like it needs to be paid as a top 1 wide receiver. And that's what you have to argue with.
Perfect example, the other night, Cleveland, and one of our listeners pointed this out. I just went back to the box score and looking at it. Nick Chubb goes down. Nick Chubb is a high-paid running back in the league, got the money, goes down with a brutal knee injury. You put a backup in who's a 5th-round pick, Jerome Ford, 16 carries, 100 yards.
And should have had a touchdown.
Yards. 7 yards a carry he was averaging nearly.
And guess who they signed off the street?
Kareem Hunt. He's back.
And that'll probably be, like, if you're Clyde, that's how you'll stay in the league. You might not play the first 3 weeks, but somebody's going to go down like, take a waiver on Clyde. Yeah. That's what all these guys are doing. Cam Akers just got traded.
Cam Akers was supposed to be the focal point
of the offense.
But he tore his knee up. Last year he did. I mean, he was coming off of an injury last year.
Yeah, they brought him in for the Super Bowl run. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know if he got hurt last year, but I know that they were high on Cam Akers, and then they shifted gears and traded him to Minnesota. Now,
high ankle sprain last year.
And now Alexander Mattison is on the outside looking in whenever he was supposed to be the focal point, because that's why you got rid of Dalvin Cook. It's just a revolving door of the position, just plug and play and try to figure it out. Like, nobody's running the ball the way that you could say. I mean, they're teams that are like the Niners, or they are a run heavy team. Like, that's a focal point. Miami, I would say, likes to run the football, but they're all multiple in the way that they do it. So it's not just the old, we're going to run it 40 times a game and Leonard Fournette gets 30 carries. Mike Allstott ain't walking through that door.
Adrian Peterson.
Right.
He's the last one I think we'll see.
Yeah.
Of just a guy that you could game plan to feed.
28 times a game.
Just 30 times a game, give it to him. Some days you might have to give it to him 35.
Right. But Christian McCaffrey he gets it in a variety of ways. Like
Kamara and McCaffrey, to me, are the hybrid of the run. If you are going to be a running back in today's NFL,
You gotta be
follow
like
that model, because that will get you paid because you're a part of the receiving game. You're a part of the receiving core almost. I mean, think about Kamara's receiving numbers. I mean, that year of the Nola no call, I mean, Kamara was the second leading receiver on the team behind Mike Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
This is while he's negotiating his contract. So sure, when he gets to the table, he's going to say, well, I mean, I was the second leading receiver last year on the team. How do you mean you're not going to pay me as a receiver? I mean, so he has an argument Leonard Fournette has no argument when he goes to the table, right? Like, I mean, he probably has caught collectively 25 passes over his career. I mean, he is a straight just...
Well, Tom fed him in the playoffs, whatever. He became check down Tom.
Not enough to get him paid as a
right,
receiver.
but he showed he could do it, and then it got him that one extra year in Tampa, because Tom wanted him back. But that's the last contract Lenny got.
I mean, where is Zeke's in New England going to fade away as a Patriot?
Yeah, he fumbled in his first game.
Damn, that's tough.
And you know what Bill does if you fumble.
Yeah, see
it's
ya.
over.
Right.
Find somebody else. I mean, it's probably Bill Belichick's fault for this whole thing. Whenever he had Jonathan Gray on the cover of Sports Illustrated after he ran for 4 touchdowns, shows up a minute late to a meeting and he cuts him. He's like, I can do this with anybody.
Yeah, right.
And so that's where they are in the NFL. Like, even Miami has a stable of backs, but they rotate because they've all been hurt. Raheem Mostert's been hurt. Whoever they put back there, it's just a tough gig, and there's no real way to fix it until it becomes a league rule.
Leonard Fournette has 312 career receptions.
Hell yeah.
2,000 yards receiving.
Damn,
He could
that's
do
a lot
it.
more than I thought.
He could do it. He
That's a
just
lot
never was
more than I
asked.
thought.
Jacksonville was...
His first season in Jacksonville, he had 36 receptions for 302 yards and a touchdown.
And how many rushing attempts?
268.
And went over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, he went over 1,000.
But he gave him the ball.
He had 2 seasons over 1,000 in Jacksonville.
And then he had his last one in Tampa, or his second to last one in Tampa. He went over 1,000 combined, huh? The Super Bowl run he didn't.
He only had 367 rushing yards.
As a buck?
Yeah, well, the first season.
Uh-huh.
What was that, 2020, right?
Yeah, then he
got signed.
He got signed super late.
But I mean, like, he was playoff Lenny.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the 320 yards came probably in the playoffs.
Yeah. That's a position.
It's just it's a position now that's just it's unforgiving. You know, I mean, there's no forgiveness as a running back. The only grace I think you can find at that position is if you're a hybrid, like a guy like, you know, Kamara or McCaffrey, that, you know, I mean, you're a legitimate, real threat as a receiver, as a pass catcher.
And then you have to find an offense that tailors that for you. To where we have to have, like, for the Saints and Kamara, it's the perfect mix because Sean Payton designed that offense for him to be that playmaker. If you go somewhere else where it's not utilized, you won't get that contract because they don't know you can get right.
I mean, you're a coach with the wrong talent.
That's
a mess.
That's a mess.
That's
And
a
I
mess.
had a feeling it would be because, I mean, it's an impossible situation to be in, first of all. But what he did was neuter. I mean, Will Rogers, he should have told him, like, go to the NFL.
Now you've set him back in recruiting. I mean, like, what's your message?
This is a 5-year deal.
Oh, and 5 years in college football is 20 years.
5 years in Stark Vegas is
an eternity.
What else we got, Austin?
People want us to get Pate back on the phone so he can give us a chalice of supremacy. Thinks we deserve one.
See if we can't qualify there for Pate State.
Pate State. I want the liquid inside.
That's right. Might not be legal.
But yeah, look at him.
All right.
Like the guy that invented, it's not Twitter. It might be Twitter. You see the guy that's aging in reverse? He's putting
Benjamin Button?
Yeah, he's putting all of his money into, like, New Genesis, and like he's like has a blood boy and all of this stuff that he has totally biohacked. It's an 18-year-old kid he has that lives at his house, and they do blood transfusions for him. He has reversed his aging. If he goes to a doctor, he's 45. They said he's technically like 24, the way that his body is responding to everything. He is off the rails, but he is living his best life, I guess.
So do you...
So wait, he has, and this is all off of just blood transfusion?
No, he's got a whole regimen, and he's trying to sell this package of this is how people should be living, get on my plan. Well, not everybody's a billionaire.
Sure.
But he has like this dumbed down version of it to where you can join the community. And he was just tweeting the other day that one of the ageist, like the people that report on age and like we're saying his methods are unsustainable, asked him if he could join the program. He's like, seems like it's working. So it's just, but if you look up a picture of the guy, hold on. I've looked him up before. Oh, Brian Johnson, Stewie. If you pull him up a before and after,
it's crazy.
Oh my God, he looks like he's built in the lab. Like his skin is like, I guess perfect, but it doesn't compute. It's like the first time you saw an HD TV.
Right.
You're like, I guess this is better.
He didn't develop Twitter though, right?
He was a tech guy. It was what do you pay? Venmo.
Oh, okay.
He's a Venmo guy.
Wow.
But here's him with this blood boy. Like, look at all this stuff he's doing to himself. It's just bizarre.
Gotta find a good picture of the before and after.
But yeah, he's a 45-year-old CEO spending $2 million on anti-aging. So LeBron's right behind him at 1. But that's just for body health. But this man is insane. Speaking of statues,
wow,
Kim Mulkey,
yes,
gets honored.
Much deserved.
Right.
Karl Malone too. They all got honored as a single.
Yeah, they should do that as a group.
Teddy Box.
Kim Mulkey was honored at Louisiana Tech with a beautiful trophy. I mean, a beautiful statue of her playing time while she was a Lady Techster basketball player. It was good to see the coach, the GOAT, recognized up in Ruston this week. So good days up in Ruston, Louisiana. We will be back with you tomorrow morning here on the Jordy Culotta Show. For everybody out there that's watching, interacting, a part of it, we appreciate it. I got the merch store. I know I tried to put the link inside of the chat. It didn't work. But if you're looking for the merch store link, it is theJordyCulottaShow.com. The Jordy Culotta Show.itemorder.com. TheJordyCulottaShow.itemorder.com is where you can find the link to the merchandise of the Jordy Culotta Show. The JordyCulottaShow.itemorder.com is where you can find them. So if you're looking for some merch, you can log on there. We appreciate you being a part of today's show. Hit that like button, share button, comment button. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Shay Dixon will be in giving us a official visitor list of recruiting this weekend, talking recruiting, and the weekend ahead here is LSU, Arkansas, and all the big games coming at you in college football on the slate. Have a good Thursday. We're back with you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Compliments of our friends over at RMB.
This man has dinner at 11 a.m. It's his last meal. He eats between 6.
Hey, Chino. Put my headphones up, bro. Right there. Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification. We about to go live. We got all your favorite guests. We got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show. Come have a good time. It's the hottest show around. We ain't got to flex. Call up G, we get it done. We earning our respect. Tell recruits to let us in. Where they going next? Throw up the L's. Now we lit. Band playing neck. From the boot to the east to the west coast. No matter where we at, we live. Mic'd up for show. Open up the phone lines. Come and join the show. Make sure you tell your friends about Jordy Culotta Show. Yeah.